12月13号到14号，深圳 Blender 大会圆满落幕。这趟深圳之行对于肥虫来说真的是收获满满。那不仅见到众多圈内的大佬，还接触到了许多令人兴奋的前沿技术。当然，肥虫这趟行程的重头戏，更是有幸邀请到了 Blender 的新任 CEO Francesco， 然后进行了一次面对面的深度专访。那大家最关心的 Blender 对 AI 的态度、平板端的进度、2026年开发路线图以及官方教育理念，都在本期视频里。希望能够带大家第一时间零距离的了解官方的动态。Blender 近几期版本增加了模板功能。那么未来Blender 会在材质和几何节点方面增加新的模板吗？这会让初学者更加容易上手，因为很多的粉丝反馈几何节点非常的难学。
Hello, this is Francesco. I'm the CEO at Blender. So the answer is, for the first question, for the compositor, which is the synthesizer that we translated, it's called compositor. That one, we started making more assets, like templates. There we call them assets. We'll make more for different areas, including geometry nodes and more, hopefully, compositing nodes as well, because we know that it helps a lot to have building blocks to work on. So we definitely will keep working on this. It is difficult to build the foundations, the ground layer for this system. So this is why we spent many months working on more of these templates more easily later.
5.0 版本承诺了动力学和几何节点的结合，而这部分的功能预计什么时候会完善呢？
So there is now work that happen in the hair systems, so for hair simulation. And we, like in the coming months, that work will be completed. And we want to have more geometry node dynamics, so more geometry node simulation systems for like rigid bodies, so for like, objects like this, for cloth simulation and stuff like that. So we want to work more on this topic next year. So again, it's the same concept, foundation, having a ground layer for a simulation clock. So like a simulation system that runs. That's what we are doing, and that's why it takes a long time. But it's definitely in the priority list.
看到昨天大会分享，然后是基于平板来使用 Blender 的宣传视频，那这个平板版本什么时候会上线呢？
We don't know yet, because it needs a lot of work. It's a very ambitious project. I hope that during next year, we can work more on the user interaction paradigms, the user interaction system, to make Blender work on tablets, and maybe not just iPad, maybe something else, maybe Android tablet. And we need support from the community to hire more developers to spend time working on these topics, because the challenge is that Blender was designed for keyboard and mouse. That's what the design. If you take this away and I say, okay, now you cannot do, you can only do this. Blender was not designed for that. So how do you change Blender to work with this, but also this? And you need to think a lot of workflows and the design principles of the software. And that's why it takes so long, because I would like to have this already today, but I cannot. So we want to work on this next year.
明年您将正式担任 Blender 的 CEO， 大家都熟知 Tan 的愿景和风格，您的管理理念那会和他一脉相承，还是会带来一些新的变化呢？
Because the Blender project keeps growing, and the challenges that we have, they keep getting more complicated, but the spirit, the idea behind Blender, the community focus, the creative focus, that is what makes Blender special. That's what means a lot to me as well, and that is what will not change.
往年 Blender Studio 的这个大项目呢都是电影，那今年呢是游戏 Dog Walk 遛狗这个。 那请问是否意味着未来咱们的开发重心会侧重于游戏领域的补全呢？
With Blender Studio, we always try to pursue new creative challenges, and making an interactive project was, I think, very interesting. I hope one day we can do this again. For the next year, we have some other projects that we want to do. And one thing that I want to try and do is a bigger film project. So a bigger scale, like a feature film size project. That's something that I would like to do with Blender Studio, because I think that working at that scale will bring challenges to Blender that we never had before. If we had more funding, I think that making more interactive projects would also be very important to do. But we have to make some decisions also for the priorities. It's mostly a funding issue. But otherwise, I think from a strategy point of view, working on better integration between Blender and Godot, for example, that's like super important, because a lot of artists and a lot of game developers use Blender and Godot.
2026年 Blender 开发当中最让您兴奋的新功能是什么呢？
We did not finalize the planning for next year development yet. I am hoping the work on the tablet continues, the pen and tablet, but also the work on texture painting. So basically be able to paint on materials, so shading and texturing workflows.
未来Blender 集成的 AI 功能和规划的方向是怎样的？
It's a very AI controversial topic, and it is. We will explore something with AI as part of the Blender Lab. Did you hear about Blender Lab? This is experiments that will maybe not be. So this is not a roadmap. This is not development plan. It is development exploration. And some topics like AI and machine learning, they are exploration. It's not something that we will directly put in Blender, because it needs a lot of thinking. We are not just going to put AI technology in Blender. It's not so simple. But we will explore the topic, and I believe that offering a layered approach to the workflows is what is probably in the future. So you use Blender tools and Blender workflows for doing different kinds of work. We don't get too technical here, but basically you can then integrate on top or on the side some AI automation or AI system that can help some of those workflows. But it's not you cannot just replace or just natively integrate these things right away, because it's not practical.
针对教育场景Blender 是否会与全球的教育机构展开合作计划呢？比如推出新的专属的教学版本的工具，或者是更多的课程资源。我们现在也在做教育方面的工作，官方能否给到我们一定的支持？
So I think two things. One is there is the Blender education group, so education.blender.org. That's what Tim from the Global CG Entertainment, the guys that are organizing this event, they participate in, and they build curricula and they work to provide Blender learning resources. Of course, teaching goes on many levels, right? You have beginner, advanced. Like what you teach is very advanced, very professional, right? People come out of your course and they can have a job. Should have a job. Their work is amazing, So we try to at least build a space, the education community, where people can exchange this information. But we probably don't do official certification titles. We do not do that. We believe in portfolio and skills, which is what you teach. So a lot of I know that in some cultures and also like it's a business model to sell certification, but we as Blender, we do not do that. We just want to make sure that people can learn the skills. And then if a school wants to give a certification to say the student attended the school, that's okay, of course, right? But for Blender, for us, I do not want to certify. So that's how it works for us. And that's one part of the question. The other one is we are trying to make the Blender Studio website accessible in Chinese. I don't know if you know about it. BlenderStudio.cn. Yeah, okay. Because that's like a lot of resources from the Blender team that we share. And that's, I think, a great resource for you guys to use also for teaching.
最后一个问题啊，肥虫告诉 Francesco， 中国有很多的粉丝正在努力学习 Blender， 那能不能给他们一些鼓励？或者是分享一些比较好的学习建议呢？
To learn Blender, I would suggest to do two things. One is to actually learn without Blender. Learn about art, learn about design, learn about how things are made, learn about storytelling, how to create an interesting picture. Look at traditional art, like everything except for Blender, because you need to have real world, real life experience and inspiration to create something digital. And then when you start to use the tool, when you start to use Blender, try to experiment with all the different parts of the software, because it's very interesting to learn also what you like to do. Because Blender is a very technical and very powerful tool, and you may not like everything in it. Some things are going to be easier, some things are going to be harder, and it is very subjective. So don't be afraid to try everything, and also don't be discouraged when some things are really hard, because it is really hard to use Blender. And really then try to bring what you see out there in the world into the software, like into the digital. But like try to not get lost into the digital creation. Try to keep in mind that this is always something rooted in reality, in your own experience. And I think that that can make it a lot of fun to, can be a lot of fun to learn. It's a fun way to learn.
其实啊，在回答这个问题前 ，Francesco 停顿并认真思考，才慎重地给出了答案。尝试把你眼中现实的世界带入到软件中，不要迷失在创作本身。要让作品扎根于现实和你的个人体验中。肥虫真的很喜欢这段话。以上啊，就是 Francesco 专访的所有内容了。希望这篇来自官方视角的对话呀，能够带给大家一些新的启发和思考。其实除了上述专访内容以外啊， Francesco 还和我们聊了关于 Blender 界面的中文翻译以及捐赠方式优化的一些事情。那考虑到内容的重要性呢，肥虫计划单独出2期内容啊，敬请各位期待了。